Whoa. Okay. I'll just leave the camera here. The light's gonna get brighter in a second. I need to tell you guys what just happened. Okay, so I just did a very deep trance-like regression with my memories. And I've said this before to friends. Every memory of my life is available within me. It's just, I find it hard to access every memory. It's not to say that I can't, because I can. It just takes a little bit more practice. I've made videos where I've talked about being in the womb, only just now I went even further in my earlier fetal stage of the womb. I remembered some other aspects, some other, I guess you can say, time stamps, periods of time within the first 3 to 2 months where I was developing. And I remembered seeing my brother for the first time in the womb, because we're twins, and seeing his black eyes, seeing his fetal body, and knowing that it looked like a kind of fishy reptile. Not saying that we're reptilians, I'm just saying in the womb we look different as fetuses. Not saying I'm a reptile or anything like that, you know. It's like blink and my eyes do this. But I remember that. I also remembered being in my buggy, being wrapped up and not being able to move, being bathed for the first time, not being able to balance my head. I remembered shaking uncontrollably. I remembered how numb my arm used to get from vaccinations. It's like I can still feel it, you know. And I used that pain because it started off with me being on my table and eating with my Winnie the Pooh bowl. And then I remembered my Frosties bowl. And then I remembered my Cocoa Pops bowl, and how there was another Cocoa Pops bowl for my brother that was passed down from my older brother Stuart and Matthew. And there's 6 years difference. And from seeing that, it was like I went from seeing my Winnie the Pooh bowl, where I was the youngest with the bowl in age, and then I jumped to a few years in the future, seeing my Frosties bowl. Then I jumped even further ahead into the future, seeing my Rice Krispies bowl. Oh, I also had a Rice Krispies bowl. I basically jumped back and forth between Rice Krispies, Cocoa Puffs, and then I went, okay, I don't want to go into the future. I want to go further back. And I directed my attention back to the first bowl that I saw, which was the Winnie the Pooh bowl. And then I saw my feet inside my onesie, my yellow onesie, and my bib. And then I remembered standing on my table, crawling on the table even, being afraid to go to the doctors. And that's when I remembered, okay, that's when I felt resistance to remembering why. Because I felt fear in my baby body. And being an infant feeling fear, I was like, okay, why am I feeling this fear? And then I got this dull ache in my arm, my younger body's arm. And then I found myself coming to, and the doctor stabbing me in the arm. And then I focused on that. I could taste the metal every time he did the injection in my arm. And it may sound weird, but I can literally taste the metal as it traveled into my system. The more and more times I got jerked in the arm, the more and more times I could taste metal in my system, and it just wouldn't leave my system. I could constantly taste it as an infant. So I focused on the taste, and then I remembered feeling the numbness in my little arm. Then I remembered feeling the lack of mobility in my little arm, and feeling scared and frightened because I realized that my body wasn't working properly due to the vaccinations. as a kid, as an infant now, guys, I remember being an infant feeling into my body the side effects of vaccines. I'm saying this because a lot of people don't like to hear the truth. But if an infant can talk to you, this is what it would be saying. Okay? So, as an infant, I was like, okay, I want to remember more. But I just kept remembering this blackness, this voidness, right? Which was very reminiscent to the time where I told you guys about how I felt myself floating like this in the womb for the first time. And that was the first time I remembered being in the womb. But like I said, now I'm going to remember more of that time frame, the first 2 to 3 months. So I thought, okay, let's just sit in this feeling of this womb-like darkness. And whatever comes up, comes up. Let's try not to control what I'm going to see. Let's just feel into this. And then I fell into the darkness, into the womb. And then I started seeing light shining from the outside in. But it was only a little bit of light. Because very quickly I then became consumed by the empathic feeling of my mum and the rhythmic patterns, okay, of when my mum would meet certain people throughout the weeks. She would feel a certain way and I'd pick up on that. Then that was how I learnt about the outside world, through my mum, through studying my mum's emotional content, my mum's emotional interactions. And that was really my first 3D interactions in relation to my empathic abilities, being able to feel emotion. Because she could pick up on people and I could pick up on them through her. And that was before I became aware that I had a brother in the womb. And at this point I couldn't see anything. Okay. Then I started seeing more of the light shining through. And these were when she would get her checkups. Okay. And even when they put the metal thing on the belly, I could feel my mum's body. My mouth's not. I'm still in that state because I just came out of the regression, so I'm having a hard time speaking. I could feel my mum's response to the coldness as it touched the belly, and that's what I would kick. Okay, so I also, from there, I remembered. Just now, I just remembered them putting it on my little chest and feeling how cold it is for the first time. Okay, now let's segue back to seeing the light more often in the womb. That was when I saw my brother for the first time, and I saw his black eyes. Okay. From that point onwards, I remained open to, again, not controlling what I was about to remember, but just remaining open to what I could receive memory-wise. This is where it gets not freaky, but weird. If you saw my last video, if I've uploaded it already, I talked about my time travel experience, where I went back into my younger self's mind, and I literally carried on the day from there on out without any recollection, any knowing of my older self, the years that followed after those, or that event when I was a kid and I was in my bunk bed. Well, as a fetus, I haven't even developed fingers yet. I'm just this thing with this head and these black eyes looking at my brother, which at that point just felt like a reflection of me, but I knew, I felt what he was to become. And as I felt that reminiscence, I actually triggered a memory whilst I was in my fetal stage of me time traveling, okay, into the future of when I was like 4 to 5 to 6. Experiencing wetting my bed, then coming back to the womb. It was quick. To me, it was real in the womb, because to me I understood exactly what was going on. Okay? It happened a few times whilst I was remembering my fetal stage. I would jump into the future and then come back. And that was the second way as to how I was experiencing the next series of events which were going to lead up into my adult life, but mainly in my younger life. Physical experiences in the future. Because, as the empathic one, experiencing external reality within that present moment through my mum. And then there was the clairvoyant stage, where I was a baby at around about 3 to 4 months old. I developed fingers in an arm and everything was black at that point. I think she stopped getting the checkups. Something happened where my eyes just weren't open as much anymore. And through that point, it was all clairvoyant. So I was seeing images of the future and I was understanding the scenarios that were being played out through these images within my future events, and knowing why it was that I wanted to go into those future events, which were actually pretty bad, but to me were good and detrimental to my personal development. Just images, audio sometimes, but it wasn't like I was actually there in a physical form. You see, that only happened within my fetal stage, which is what I just came out of when I did the memory regression. And I remembered embodying my younger self from a standpoint of this present moment, my younger self, my 6-year-old self. I remembered embodying his little body and feeling that wet warmness when I woke up the next morning after wetting my bed. And then I was thrown straight back into the fetal position, looking at my brother's black eyes. Okay, so this is just a little update as to what I'm getting myself into. I'm not going to talk about what I want to do just yet. Maybe once it happens, I'll let you know. The only thing that was distracting me from this meditation was every time I noticed the fact that I was meditating for minutes and minutes, to 20 minutes to 30 minutes at a time, without even batting an eyelid. It got so easy to the point where I was actually preferring this kind of life review. I'd notice that, then smile here, because I was so happy at how easy I was performing this feat. And then I'd crack my lips, because I wasn't licking my lips when I was doing all this stuff, because I wasn't aware of my physical body. So because I was in this deep meditation, my lips would go dry. I would then smile a little bit and crack my lip. I cracked my lip about 3 times in 3 different places. But yeah, this is as a result of that first memory mastery course that I built years ago. I improved it, time traveled last week, real time travel. And now I'm just accessing more of these memories through a much more refined process, so that I can access these memories rather than just knowing that they're there. You see, it's one thing to know that you can access all of them, it's another thing to actually do it. Okay? So I'm Ryan James Cropper. This has been Your Potential. Wow. Subscribe for more videos like this, and check out my website, ryancropper.com, for courses and other criteria when it comes to the mind and developing yourself spiritually, when it comes to knowing thyself, knowing what you are, and when it comes to just accessing new areas of perceiving reality through your younger self's eyes, or through this current day you, when it comes to astral projection leaving the body. You've probably guessed it by now. I love meditating, I love dealing with the mind, and because of this I've ended up really getting a more denser version of life, because I can access every facet of life without being distracted by every distraction of this side of reality. Okay? Subscribe, comment below if you've got any comments, and I'll speak to you all pretty soon. Peace. Just looking over the content, there is something I forgot to mention. When I would be in the fetal stage and I time traveled as into the future and I became my 6-year-old self, and then I bounced back to my fetal stage, I actually remembered also living a very large portion of my life numerous times times. I mean like living the full 6 years, being born, the whole shebang, something happening, and then time traveling all the way back into the fetal stage again, and then living out my life all over again up until my adult years, going back into the fetal stage again, then starting again for the first 3 years, then going back into the fetal stage again. I've not lived this life once. These memories, everything. This is not the first time for me. And now I'm wondering whether or not I'm actually going to finish this time, or if I'm going to get so caught up into what I'm doing that I end up time traveling yet again, only to live the next 23 years of my life all over again from scratch, until maybe I actually surpass this age. Am I recording? I am recording, thankfully. Something to chew on. I mean, can you imagine that? If you've lived your entire life, like 5 or 6 times already, and each time something's happened. Maybe you've fallen down the stairs. Maybe something just didn't go right. Your life path, this series of events were just wrong. And then you just remembered instantly that you are the creator of everything and this wasn't supposed to happen. So you just go straight back into the fetal position. Open your eyes. You're staring at your brother if you're a twin. And you're like, okay, let's start over.